gorgeous ladies. So we have just opened this conversation on the importance of Christian women owning their money and this concept of financial independence. And the conversation has indeed gotten started. I have gotten so many comments from you guys saying, thank you so much. This is exactly what I'm in the middle of struggling with right now. Or this has come to the forefront of my life and God is dealing with me on it as something that's really important. Or this is something that people aren't talking about and I haven't known how to think about it as a Christian and as a woman. So let's continue the conversation, shall we? This time I want to talk about what do you do, right? So awesome that this is an important thing. What should that look like? How do we move forward? What do we do with this realization of, oh, this is something that I need to focus on in my life? Well, usually when we talk about owning your money and stewarding your money well, perhaps particularly in Christian circles, the talk comes to be around saving more and budgeting and where can I cut back and what am I spending on that I don't need to be spending on, and can I make my own coffee at home every day instead of buying a latte out, or all of these different things. And especially when there's debt in the equation, it becomes a very scary and scarcity mindset discussion. Now, if you haven't heard that term before, the scarcity mindset, there's a lot of different ways to define it, but essentially it's this deep belief, and I think it's often a subconscious belief, you guys know I love to talk about those, that there isn't enough, that essentially life is a pie and there's only so many slices, and if somebody gets more, somebody else is going to get less. There's just only so much to go around, and so there needs to be this general sense of panic or competition or worry or hurry or just kind of this terror of, am I going to survive? Is there going to be enough for me? Am I going to have enough when I need it if something dries up or if I lose my job or something stops? Well, that's a very scary place to live. And obviously I can quote you all kinds of Bible verses that you guys already know about how God provides for this, his eyes on the sparrow, he dresses the lilies, we're going to be fine. But when you're in the throes of that kind of fearfulness day by day, it can be a little hard to keep those Bible verses front of mind, right? Thank you so much. I'm so glad that, things randomly appeared for Jesus when he needed them, but I haven't seen my 4 fish or whatever 2 loaves multiply into this endless pantry supply. We are actually low on food or something, right? So it can be a very real feeling. And I'm not going to say, oh, you just need to shift your mindset. You need to think more abundantly. You need to imagine that there's so much more out there. I've heard that too. And I do think that there is a lot of truth to it, if for no other reason that it calms our stress, which allows us to think clearly and come up with a working strategy of what are we going to do about it. But I don't think that sitting on the couch hoping that more magically shows up because we're being positive is necessarily a sufficient strategy. I think that that's a lovely part, and I certainly would say pray, meditate, visualize, do all of these things to call in on a supernatural spiritual level the things that God may have laying in the sidelines that you don't see, to be able to bless you or just get you through to the next point. But I also think that some action can be required, right? That's what we talked about last week. So what does that look like? Am I going to tell you need to go budget? Maybe that's part of it for you, right? Maybe that's part of it. But here's something I'd like you to consider, and especially thinking in the sense of stepping from the scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset. What if a part of the solution was not just saving more or saving more strategically? That's what I really like to say is, what do you spend money on that you don't actually care about? And what are you spending money on that is a priority for you? And can you cut out the things, not that are extraneous as in unnecessary, but extraneous as in you're not even enjoying them, right? And focus on the things that you have identified are a priority in your life, which of course means you do have to sit down and figure out what you love and what you do prioritize and what your current needs and greatest desires are right now, which a lot of people never do. And they just live in this constant sense of I can't do it all when they don't even realize they don't want to do it all. Isn't that hilarious? We're trying to do it all, but do you even want to? Do you even want to, let alone need to, right? So, stepping from that scarcity, that lack of clarity, and that total terror of, oh my gosh, what if there's not enough next month, to abundance. What if instead of just saving more, because I do think that's part of it, what if instead of just saving more, for some of you that is part of the equation, there was an opportunity to make more. Okay? Now, most of us, I would say, are probably being paid by someone else. As in, we are waiting for a paycheck to come, and that paycheck is determined by someone else deciding to give it to us. And are getting that paycheck week to week, month to month, every other week, is based on whether or not we performed according to a set group of people's expectations and we kept our jobs. In other words, we are someone else's employee. I don't think there's anything wrong with the employee mindset. I have the employee mindset as far as God. God is my boss. And I am hoping to meet his expectations, not so that I get something from him, but I'm here working for him. I'm his servant and I'm his bondservant. I'm his slave, if you really want to get kind of graphic. But I think that we do need to, from a calm perspective, step back and say, wait a second, what if there's another way? What if, with that creative power that God gave me in this incredibly first world country where I might not have enough to go around this month, but many people have more than enough, and yet they have needs that aren't being met, I could help them meet their needs, and they could in return help me meet mine, right? What if I could provide some kind of service or product or support for them that would help them, that would break this cycle of things that they have not been able to crack? Guys, I get on coaching calls, not with my personal clients, but with, as a client of other coaches. And I hear women who are in their 40s, 50s, 60s who have money to burn. They might not be used to spending it on personal development or health and wellness or one of these areas, spiritual growth, but they do have plenty laying around, and yet they have these persistent problems that they haven't been able to solve. They're unhappy in their relationships, or they don't have a relationship and they desperately want one. They're unhappy in their body. They have no idea how to take care of it. They've never been able to lose that weight, crack that code, be at peace. They haven't been able to feel like they have a deep union with God, and they don't even know what that looks like. Church community hasn't, solved it for them. They don't know what to do, and yet these are persistent problems, but they have the money to spend to fix them. So the question is, what if you thought outside the box of your current job, whether or not you love it, whether or not you want to be in it for the rest of your life, or maybe you're already thinking, when I do get married, or when I do have children, or when my children, are moved on and I want to be able to retire, I want to be able to get out of this job, you're going to need to have revenue coming in, income coming in. So you don't necessarily need to start thinking, okay, I want to act on the dreams God's put in my heart. I want to help support my family more. I want to fund incredible charities and missions. So then I need to, not spend on a coffee out, right? Or I need to try not to drive as much. And maybe, I could get a bike, or I could take public transportation, or you could have a side hustle, girlfriend. You could bring in income from another source. That's what I want you to think about. I have loved the flexibility of being able to work from home, and especially now that I'm a mom. I was just, this morning, Juliet was playing all around me on the floor, and I was on the phone doing training, and it blew my mind that I have this flexibility, that I can be here with her. I could stop at any second that I needed to be with her, and yet I'm able to bring in revenue, help support the family, help fund my dreams, help fund missions and charities I love. And nothing has to stop. And here's the even better thing, guys, is that no one caps that revenue, that income for me. God could. You could say, nope, that's enough. But there is no boss above me saying, well, no matter how much harder you work, I'm not going to let you bring home any more money this week. No one says that to me. Okay? And you can be in a position where no one says that to you. So here's a couple steps to take. First of all, think about, what do you do? What could you do? What do you enjoy? What skills do you have? What knowledge do you have? What ability to support do you have that people might be looking for? And how could you be compensated for offering that? That's a beautiful question to ask, and can feel very overwhelming. So I want you to just realize you're in a brainstorm right now. It's not happening tomorrow. We're not, creating an LLC yet, although I will recommend that. That's my next step, actually. But just what could it look like? Would you walk someone's dogs? Would you babysit on the side? Maybe you're not 16, but you really enjoy kids and you're good at taking care of them. And you have these weird gaps in your schedule when someone like me could totally use someone to watch a baby. Or maybe you cook really well, or maybe you just support and encourage. Maybe you bolster someone who's down. Maybe you are kind of handy with organizing or cleaning things up, even handy woman, shall we call it, handy woman jobs. I'm actually a pretty decent handy woman, thanks to my dad who was in construction and architecture. So what kind of skills do you have that you might be completely overlooking? There's a woman I know who I'm working with now, and I haven't even told her this, but I think I will. Maybe I have, casually. She takes the most magnificent photos. There are stock photography sites where she could be selling those. And no, it's not hundreds and hundreds of dollars a day, but you are making a little bit here and a little bit there. And if it's something you already love, then why not be paid for it? You're providing a service for a person. Trust me, the hunt for stock photos with an online business is miserable. So she's providing a service, or could be providing a service for people who desperately want it and don't have the time or the skill or the equipment to go out and take pictures like that. But she's done it for them. She's enjoyed the process. She's bringing in side income. They're benefiting, right? So what could you do to bless people like that with a skill set that you have or a passion that you have? Second tip, start a business. And when I say that, I mean not just in the sense of this whole concept of a side hustle is what a lot of people call it, or bringing in some kind of side income, but also create an LLC or some kind of business structure. I am not an accountant. Don't take that, for the gospel or anything like that, but create some kind of business formation. It's extremely inexpensive. I don't want to say it's free, but I recall it being so little money that I didn't even notice at the beginning, like less than $100 in Texas. I don't remember for an LLC. I really don't recall. It's been a couple of years, but I remember it being incredibly easy, like really not complicated at all. And there are lots of people who understand how to do it, and that's their specialty and their gift to be able to help you. And then you've created this buffer of protection for yourself. Usually when we have a job, we're just getting a paycheck to a personal account. When you have some kind of service or something that you're offering, you really want to have a buffer of having a business bank account. It just takes opening a new free account. It's nothing there. And getting a free credit card that comes with that, or a free debit card, it's all you need. And then creating some kind of LLC or S Corp or C Corp. I know that's all very complicated sounding, but it's so simple, really, really simple when you look at it. In your state, whatever fits best for you to just have a little bit of buffer for liability reasons, and so you can then expense things. So if you are driving somewhere to go tutor someone's child, that gas is an expense that you can write off against your taxes. Or against your taxes, I think it's against your profit for your taxes. I can't remember the phraseology. You can see how much I'm depending on someone else to help me figure this out. But this is the kind of stuff that starts to open your world. It can be the kind of thing that starts to give you hope. If you're stuck in a job that you don't love, but it's what pays the bills, and you're thinking, gosh, this really limits where I can live as far as I can't move if I can't find a job somewhere else. This limits how much time I'm going to be able to spend with my children. This limits how much travel I'm going to be able to do. This limits, frankly, just normal lifestyle. Freaks me out when I'm at the grocery store and I can't buy the decent food that I want to fuel my body with. Freaks me out when I want to tithe more, but I can't, It freaks me out when I have a charity or a mission that some friend of mine is doing, and I'm the person who checks the box of I will pray for you rather than I will pay for you, It's that kind of freedom that just a couple extra $100 a month, a week, can help to ease, to help create. So we talked about financial independence. Usually what comes from any kind of discussion of managing money better, as I've said, turns to saving money more. And I want you to realize that there's a second option, and I highly recommend it. And that is, instead of saving more, making more. Or in addition to saving more, or saving differently, making more. Realizing that this is not a closed box, that there is so much opportunity in this country for women with the internet, with the first world, stuff that we have out there, problems included, but first world possibilities to bring in just a little bit of extra income, doing something that you love that serves other people who desperately want something. One of the hurdles that women often have is realizing people want this, people need this. I have been looking for various things on the internet before, and I just think I would throw money at someone if they would do this for me, or help me with this, or have this kind of product available. So people are desperately looking for and so deeply served by something that you might be able to offer. So start thinking. What passion do you have? What skill set do you have? What weird, bizarre hobby or side interest or extracurricular activity or just one of those second nature things that you're good at that other people aren't, that you could offer as a service, a product, some kind of support to people who are looking for it. And then think about just taking those two very basic steps. They're so basic. There are no more steps than that. At least not if you want to just get started. Of starting your own business, opening a second bank account so that you can keep your expenses separate, so it's easier for your accountant or you to kind of sort through them at tax time, and then starting some kind of business formation that protects you legally, protects you a little more from the whole tax structure stuff. An LLC, sole proprietorship, which is the absolute easiest. And if you're just starting off on your own instead of building any kind of team, which you might not, probably won't in the beginning, that's all you need. And you can change it later. That's the other thing. You can't make these decisions wrong because they're changeable. So I just want to encourage you. I so passionately believe that Christian women should not be stunted by lack of finances, and yet I see it all the time. And I want you to realize that you aren't stuck. You're not limited. There is no glass ceiling in America with the internet these days. You can bring in extra money, and it can make all the difference for you, for the ways you want to serve God, for the ways you want to help support your family, for peace in your marriage, for peace when you go to sleep at night, and just for spreading joy and doing good work without having to worry as much. So think about it, and I'd love to hear in the comments below, has that occurred to you before, that you could bring in money as your own business? That sounds scary, but just think of it as you could bring in a little extra income through serving somehow. Business is a big word, so just through serving somehow. What could that look like for you? What have you considered before? Has it worked? Has it not worked? I am becoming more and more passionate, not necessarily about all women going into business, quote unquote, but about them realizing their potential for bringing in income, for not being the stay-at-home mom who's stuck, either having fights with her husband or just being dependent on him completely, or the young girl who's in college who's completely funded by her family and doesn't really have any ability to make personal decisions yet because of that, or the person who wants to serve God but just is completely strapped already with the necessities of life and those costs. So think about it and let me know. Has it occurred to you that instead of just saving more, you could make more? And what ways have you thought of, or can you think of now, that you could do it? I'd love to hear about it. Get your juices flowing. What is possible for you? Just get creative. You're not locking yourself into anything. You're just brainstorming. But I'd love to hear some of your ideas and encourage you to dream big.